I thought my first ballet performance in the Nutcracker would be easy. I was wrong. It challenged me in ways that I didn't expect, taught me things that I couldn't learn in class, and it ended with a moment so rare for a first performance that I could never see it coming. My name is Aaron. Welcome to Faith and Révérence. I began working here at Prince Ev Ballet Academy as a contractor, doing videography and photography. The first time that I worked for them was filming and photographing their spring recital, which was a Paquita performance and a competitive showcase. When I first got in contact with the studio, I agreed to work in exchange for account credit. That was a big deal for me at the time because I felt that I really wanted to pursue ballet professionally, and I had taken private lessons for 2.5 years, but I hadn't had much of an opportunity to take group classes or to learn from different teachers or to really pursue ballet as much as I wanted to. The private lessons were great. They taught me a lot, and I still enjoy taking those when I can, but with my financial circumstances and everything, it just became very difficult for me to be able to pursue it as much as I wanted to in the quantity that I wanted to. Needless to say, it's also very important to take group classes. Private lessons are extremely valuable, but group classes have their own set of values that they present to you that help you to improve in different ways. Fast forward to when I filmed and photographed the spring recital. Everything came out very well. They were happy with the photos and the video. I continued to have communication with them, build relationships with them. But, at the time, I felt like the opportunities were a bit shallow. I knew that I was here for a reason. I knew that I was getting this account credit and that this was very, very beneficial for me, and it was what I needed to be able to continue to grow and to pursue my path down becoming a professional dancer. But I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know what the whole picture was at the time. And I just continued to show up. I just continued to, like I said, stay in communication, show up, do various bits of work for them in small quantities, and continued to show up and take classes and just put in that consistent effort. And oftentimes when we put in that consistent effort day to day, we don't see anything happening immediately. But then once things happen and you have a breakthrough of some sort, then you look back and you say, oh my God, God was behind this. He was working in this the entire time. I just didn't see the whole picture. I didn't see the extent of what he was doing. So I continued to show up to the studio, and one day, I get a text message from Julia, the studio manager, and she asks me about my availability for the Nutcracker. But she asked me about my availability for a couple months leading up to the Nutcracker performance, and I was a bit confused. I thought, well, why would they need me for the couple months leading up to the performance for videography and photography? Well, come to find out, they actually wanted me to perform in their Nutcracker. That was not something that I expected to happen. I remember I spoke to my buddy Matt, who I was working with one day, and this was several months prior. It really wasn't that long prior. It might have been a few months. And I remember I was sitting in his work truck with him, and Matt asked me, if you were to set a goal for how long it would be before you get into your first ballet performance, how long would you set a goal for? And I said, well, I guess it would be 1 year. It ended up only being a few months before I got into my first ballet opportunity, or ballet performance opportunity. So we blew that goal out of the water, right? But so I was asked if I would perform. I was given a couple of options. I ended up picking the slightly more difficult role of, or maybe I would say a lot more difficult, to be fair, role of Drosselmeyer. Like I said at the time, when I saw the performance from the prior year and saw the choreography and everything, I thought, oh, this is going to be too easy. It's not very technical. It's too easy. Well, like I said, I was wrong. It was actually very difficult. No, it's not the most technical role, But to learn the choreography, to learn stage presence, to learn how to play a character as dramatic as Drosselmeyer, there are a lot of aspects to that performance which, like I said, I couldn't learn any of that in class. That was something that had to be learned on the stage and in rehearsals leading up to the performance. So one thing that I just wanted to point out is while everything seemed a bit shallow on the surface level, I was just showing up, working, taking classes, just putting in my little bits of effort. God was working behind the scenes, and he was working out this awesome performance opportunity for me much sooner than I even expected or had a goal for it to even happen, right? So I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful to the studio, but most importantly, I'm thankful to God for providing that opportunity. The nature of the cast is that most of the roles were played by children, and most of these children are at a much higher level than I am, technically speaking, with ballet. They've been doing it for years. They're like advanced students. If we were to scale it based on, an adult intermediate class or an intermediate and advanced class or an advanced class, whatever, however you want to classify it, I think they would be considered more on the advanced level, right? So in a lot of ways that can be intimidating. Like I said, my role wasn't highly technical, but in a lot of ways that can even be almost more intimidating, right? Because I'm doing this role that for these kids, it would probably be so easy for them to do because it's not very technical, but at the same time, like, I have my own struggles, right? Doing that role and with the choreography and learning it and getting like some basic movements right. Like, I remember the ballet skip, just a basic skip. I couldn't figure that out and ended up taking somebody to show me how to do that. And I remember the second rehearsal, one of the girls said to me, "Oh, you're doing the skip. You figured out how to do it." And I'm thinking, oh God, like how long does it take to learn something so basic, right? So in a lot of ways it can be intimidating, but I have to give these girls a lot of credit because at the very first rehearsal, one of the girls came up to me and for the sake of privacy, I won't name any names, but one of the girls came up to me and she started helping me and just without even being asked by anyone. And she just started giving me input and pointers and helping me with different things. It was my first rehearsal. I was so lost, but it was just amazing the type of support that I received from day one. And as the rehearsals went on and as the performance went on, I was Drosselmeyer, I had some partnering roles. There was a little pas de deux with Clara, right, which is played by one of the girls. Well, in this case, two of the girls, because it was double cast, two different shows. So, I had to work with these girls and be able to do a little bit of partnering and be able to lift them and just different things. And they're on point, and I have to help them to balance a little bit and these different little things, which pretty minor, right? But they're a big deal, and they're not as easy as they look. Some of these things that you have to do. Especially someone who had just started ballet 2.5 years ago, never performed before, never did any partnering before. I've never taken any partnering classes. So I have to say these girls were very supportive and just very kind. And in a lot of ways, they're like my family now. I don't take classes with them generally or anything like that. But after having done this performance with them, I know a lot of them know me now. It's like they're my family. And I just felt the love and support from them. And I can't be grateful enough to them for being so respectful and so kind and so supportive over someone like me who's 31 years old pursuing ballet. A lot of those girls don't know my goals. They don't know how great I want to become. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what mattered was that they were very supportive, and it's not like they were sitting there laughing at me when I messed up or anything. These things that we feel self-conscious about, the things that we think, everyone's looking at me, everyone's going to think I'm ridiculous. Well, they're actually not, or if they are, at least they had the decency to not do it in front of my face. So, anyways, there were a lot of mistakes that I made during the performance, but I think for the most part, people didn't realize those mistakes. The audience didn't realize them. I was able to keep going through the performance and we even had a prop malfunction at some point, but it didn't matter. It felt awkward. It felt a little bit uncomfortable at times when you make those mistakes. But at the end of the day, I was able to push through it. And I think that's what's really important, is being able to push through those things, especially when you're doing a live performance. If you're a musician and you miss a note, just keep going, because if you miss a note and then you stop and you like, oh, then everyone knows that you did it, right? But if you miss a note and you keep going, there might be like 0.1% of the population of the world that would notice that mistake, but most people won't notice it, right? So, doing ballet, a lot of these parents and stuff, they see their kids do ballet, but they don't necessarily see the mistakes that I make. Or even if they do notice it, it's really not the end of the world, right? It's just the experience. And I spoke with Ivan, who was directing the thing, and I even told him, I said, man, I made so many mistakes during the second show. And he goes, no, it's okay, don't worry about it. No, you did great, you did really good. And he was just so positive and uplifting and supportive. That means a lot. That's a really good director, I think, right? That's somebody who sees the effort that's put in and is willing to reward the effort rather than nitpick on the mistakes and what could have been better. We have to realize how we can improve and how we can do things better, right? That's really important. As artists, nothing's going to be perfect, but we're always striving for growth and for doing things better in a way that looks good, in a way that feels good. So I think that's important, but I think it's also important to be forgiving of yourself and to be around people that are forgiving of you. Like I mentioned, those girls, I felt they were very forgiving of me. Ivan, the director, very forgiving. Julia, everyone else who was doing rehearsals and helping me out with stuff, very forgiving, I think, for the most part. So I just, I'm really appreciative of that, because that helps, because oftentimes we're very self-critical, right? We're our biggest critics. And sometimes it's not as bad as we think it is. Sometimes we're not doing as bad as we actually think we are. And it takes a little perspective from someone on the outside to say, no, you did a good job. And I can truly say that I experienced that I had people feeding me those affirmations. And that just goes back to what I said before about how important it is to be in a good training environment, right? So a good training environment, a good director, a good set of people that you work with in your field, whatever that may be, whether that be dance or anything else. I think it's just really important to lift each other up and not be so critical of each other and not be so critical of yourself. After the show, Ivan came up to me and he told me, Aaron, I have something for you. Today, you're getting paid for dancing in this production. That was such a big deal to me. It was such a big affirmation that I'm going down the right path. That wasn't something that was pre-negotiated. It wasn't something that was even on my mind. I had no thought in my mind whatsoever that I was going to get paid for this performance. I don't think it's very usual to get paid for a first ballet after only training for 2.5 years. But he chose to attach value to my performance. That's something he didn't have to do. He chose to affirm my path. That's something he didn't have to do. And I'm so grateful to him for being so supportive, as I said, over my goals and over my journey, and just basically saying in so many different little and big ways, hey, I believe in you. You really want to do this? You want to become a world-class dancer? I believe you can do it. And like I said, people can say it. He has said it. But people show what they really feel based on their actions, right? And he has shown me in so many ways how he is willing to support me and how he's willing to do anything in his power to help me to achieve my goals. That was such a big moment for me, and I will never forget it. I already would never forget that performance. Now whenever I hear music by Tchaikovsky that's in the Nutcracker, it's so emotional for me, just being able to experience those feelings again. And I will never forget how it felt to be in that performance and on that stage. And even after doing 100 performances, I hope that I never forget how it felt in that first ever performance. But certainly, I will never forget that moment when he came up to me and told me I was getting paid for that performance, because it was so humbling in a lot of ways to know that God is so gracious to me, and that even though I don't deserve any of the good things that come my way, that he still is going to help me to do what I want to do in life and pursue my career as a professional ballet dancer. People say that God meets you halfway. I actually think that he meets you more than halfway. I think that if you put in even a fraction of an effort, that God will meet you where you're at generally, and he will provide for you, and he will guide you. God worked in so many ways early on in my ballet journey, ways that I could never expect, ways that I could never even think to ask for. And I'm just so excited to see how he works in my ballet journey and in my life over the next 20 years. I just imagine he's going to do great things and take me down great paths and help me to accomplish things which I could never even imagine. And I'm just really grateful for that, and I'm excited for the journey and excited to see where it leads. Thank you for listening. I encourage you to like the video, comment, subscribe. That way you can get notifications, and that way you can stay tuned into this crazy ballet journey of mine.